All right, it is 9:40, and I want to go over this setup with GTII. I was not in this setup, but I was watching it, and this thing was a morning panic bounce play. And believe it or not, when it had this wick right here, I did see the certain type of things that I normally find in a lot of them to work. I could have, in theory, have taken a buy right here, which would have been a little riskier because it would have been under the trend line, but it would have worked out here. And I did try to place an order later when it looks like it was showing more signs that it was going to actually, you know, uptrend and not really dip anymore. And I did try to buy 100 shares at 9.35, which was right here at 3.37. But unfortunately, by the time I placed the order, 3.37 was no longer at the ask and it was at the bid. So I was not able to get filled. And it did immediately uptrend. I was looking for it to maybe if potentially it would dip down and not necessarily break below the wick, but just do one more dip and then it turns around. It didn't happen. It just continued the uptrend and it got to the goal of getting above VWAP. So I did miss out on this morning panic bounce, but just because I wanted to be a little safe on it. Maybe I could have had a wider limit, a higher limit, but that's fine. If this thing offers a very convincing dip, I will take into consideration this setup for another buy. Otherwise, that's pretty much all I have for right now. Although I guess, yeah, it's looking like it broke past the 20 cents level, but this thing doesn't really have the best volume. Maybe if it breaks this 24 level, it might be something to take into consideration, but it's not as nice as GTII. I'll make an update later. Okay, it is 9:56 a.m. and I want to make an update. GTII is not doing anything that I wanted to do. I don't like this price action that it's doing right here, even though it is uptrending. It's not something that I want to be a part of. I don't like it, the way it's doing it. If this thing were to do a drop now, it would not be as ideal because if it's going to drop, maybe you get below VWAP and then be a potential dip buy setup. It's going to have resistance here, resistance at VWAP, resistance here, resistance, and it's just building up a whole bunch of resistance now. It might not ever get below VWAP and offer a dip buy, but if it does, it's not going to be that nice anymore. And the only setup I see this thing could try to do now could be like a head and shoulder. So maybe like a shoulder, it makes the head, it drops, and then maybe I take a buy in the 350s, and then it makes a shoulder that I can sell into, or best case scenario, it breaks the head, which is already pretty spiky looking. So there's nothing that I want to trade with this one. This one's downtrending, no volume. Nothing really nice with this one, although I guess it did do a morning panic bounce play. It would have been hard to trade because it does have a bit of a spread, and it doesn't seem like there's anything in my scanner that really sticks out and looks super interesting for me to consider a buy or a dip buy. So yeah, it just doesn't seem like there are any good setups right now, and I have to go to the DMV and do some other things. So I guess I might come back later. Maybe I miss out on an amazing setup with GTII, but I mean, for all these reasons that I mentioned, I don't think it's looking that nice anymore for today. Alright, it is 6:21 p.m. and I'm here to call it off. Overall, I didn't make anything, lose anything. It was just that attempt to buy GTII, which did work out, but again, I wasn't able to get filled. I could have been aggressive and considered it when it was showing signs that it was going to do a potential turnaround, just the way it dropped so quickly and then it started to regain itself. But I just don't mind playing it safe. And yeah, it did like this really lame uptrend, so it kind of killed the vibe for a potential immediate dip buy setup. And it did do maybe that head and shoulders idea, the shoulder, the head, and here's the dip at 357, and it got as high as a 368. So the range wasn't even that nice, and it traded back and forth, and I did not see any of this. Actually, I did come back to the markets right here, and at this point, I wasn't interested in it because it doesn't really seem to work out very much. Panic dip buys, especially when they're very close towards the end of the day. But I mean, I guess in theory, this one did make a move from two to, I guess that's not a 20, a 10% move right there. So that wasn't so bad. I would have likely have considered this one or this one being the, double bottom off of this original panic. Maybe even this one, although this one didn't work out as well. And then potentially this one once it did a trend line break, perhaps. Yeah, I like how it, kind of broke past it right here. Then it came back to it, but then it followed it very nicely. This wouldn't have been such a bad setup now having a trend line to look at this. So Yeah, definitely a few setups were missed out, but at least I did try in the one I did see. And that is it for today. Hopefully, maybe I can be able to trade something tomorrow and setup works out. I guess GTI is a bit down, so maybe it will be like a reversal setup. But we do have some other ones, and I'll keep watching these. And maybe these can offer a very nice morning panic bounce way, ideally with volume.